All right, now we're going to get going. All right, welcome everyone to the Minnesota Senate Transportation Committee for our hearing being held on Monday, February 23rd, 2026. The time is 3:05. We are in room 1100 of the Minnesota Senate building. A quorum is present. Members, we're going to jump to item number 2, Senator Howe. He has to get on to another committee, but we're very happy to have Senator Howe. Welcome back to the Transportation Committee. Senator Coleman is a great addition, and we're happy to have her, but we miss you too. So
it's always good to be in front of the Transportation Committee or to be on the Transportation Committee, Senator Dibble. So thank you for allowing me to be present again.
Absolutely. And just members, for your information, we are going to vote this bill as a standalone and send it on to the floor because it's fixing a little certain something that has some time sensitivity to it. Item number 4, we will lay on the table for future possible inclusion, and I haven't figured out item 3. Does it need to go anywhere else? Okay, so we'll move that out of committee and to its next stop, which is judiciary, if it receives sufficient number of votes. I'm not presuming anyone's vote. What did? No, not 3. All right, with that, Senator Howe, please proceed on Senate File 3637.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And Senate File 3637 is basically a clarification of the bill that we passed last year on the window tint. During the interim, we had an issue where, for some reason, it was determined that optometrists couldn't write the prescription for the window tint. So in order to make sure this does not get misinterpreted again, we're just writing a clarification, and what we do is we just add or optometrist where the physician would be. So we say physician or optometrist treatment of the medical need. And that is the extent of the bill. It just lets the optometrist write the prescription for the window tint. And that way we won't end up with this situation again.
Thank you, Senator Howe. Senator Howe, do you have any witnesses that we're calling forward?
No, Mr. Chair. We figured that this was so clear-cut, we really didn't need one. And I know that you and I have talked during the interim. We sent a letter to DPS explaining our dissatisfaction that this was misinterpreted at the license bureaus out there in greater Minnesota and in this cities. So this just hopefully people see the relevance of this and pass it. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Howe. And members, I'll just add to Senator Howe's presentation that this was first brought to my attention by Senator Wickland. It was brought to her attention by a constituent who is an optometrist. This came about as a consequence of a change that was made to make window tinting permanent in some instances, and for those who have medical conditions for which making window tinting permanent rather than an occasional renewal of the request to window tint beyond that level which is allowed. There's reasons why we limit the level of tinting having to do with public security or public safety. So that triggered the conversation that the three of us had. We engaged with the Department of Public Safety. The Department of Public Safety responded so I have the letter here if anyone is interested. They didn't see that there was actually a change in how the law was being enforced and hadn't run into the issue at that. Whether that's true or not, the conversation was pursued between, I was just looking at I looked back at the record at some of these licensing boards and bodies, and they made the determination that yes, in fact, the new language that came forward excludes optometrists and only allows ophthalmologists to make window tinting, prescribe and make window tinting permanent. So we thought let's just make the change and just make it super clear so there's no ambiguity or question in people's minds. All right, with that, any questions, members? All right, Senator Coleman.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Senator Howe, for bringing this forward. Fully supportive. Just curious if this is going to start another ophthalmology versus optometry turf war. I don't know if I can handle another one of those. So if you've heard from the ophthalmologist at all.
Senator Howe.
I have, thank you, Mr. Chair and Senator Coleman. No, I have not heard from anyone but the optometrist. So no one's reached out to say, no, we definitely want to make this just one way or the other. So it's always been DPS's policy to accept optometrist recommendations. So this is something that was a surprise to DPS as well as us. So this just makes the clarification clear that they can write the prescription.
All right. Senator Howe, we're going to hold you to it. So, Senator Coleman, just kind of keeping things as they are, so I really hope we don't have this. I actually, when I was a very naive, I might have been a freshman, took an optometry scope of practice bill. Let's just say I learned a lot as a new. I think it got slid my way by a more senior member. So I found out exactly how many optometrists and how many ophthalmologists live in my district. Turns out a lot. So with that, Senator Coleman, do you want to make the motion?
General orders? Okay. Yes, Mr. Chair, I move that Senate File 3637 do pass and be moved to general orders.
Good enough? All right. Be recommended to pass and refer to the floor.
A little rusty,
All right.
thank you.
Minute taker, we'll get it right. All right, anything further, members? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed say no. Motion carries. Thank you, Senator Howe. All right, thank you. I will invite Robin Hutcheson forward. Robin Hutcheson has been appointed as the new chair of the Metropolitan Council. We haven't really discussed how this is going to go, so I'll tell you that the floor is yours, and then we will open up for questions.
Chair Dibble, I appreciate that open invitation to hand the floor to me for a couple of minutes, and I first want to just give you my appreciation for scheduling this hearing. It allows me to introduce or reintroduce myself to this committee and to just tell you a little bit about who I am. So thank you, Chair, and thank you also to Ranking Member Jasinski, with whom I met 20 minutes ago, half an hour ago, just to make sure to touch base before this session. I want to thank Governor Walz for the trust placed in me for this position, this nomination, and it is a profound opportunity. I could not help myself and come back to public service, and especially the Met Council just carries such enormous possibility for positive impact on our region, and it really is life by life, a life-changing impact. And I look forward to defending and strengthening the quality of life for communities within the region and communities across the state. I am known for a work style that is very transparent, making relationships easily, and working in a very open and honest way. And I brought that to every position so far and to this one. And if I am confirmed as the chair of the Metropolitan Council, and in all of the days that I serve as the chair of the Metropolitan Council, you can expect that transparency and collaboration at every step on projects and issues and policies that are easy and agreeable for everyone, and conversely, on those that feel difficult. I will show up for a conversation with you. I know some of you a little bit, and others are new, so some personal background and professional. I've worked for about 30 years, which is a crazy number when I think about it, but it is true. I've worked with the smallest of towns and with the largest of cities, with counties, and I've advised transit agencies, and I have served this entire country at the federal level. My time in the private sector taught me to act swiftly, because that's what the private sector expects of you. My time in local government taught me that I personally need to have an impact. I need to leave a mark where I go on behalf of others. I served under Secretary Buttigieg, working directly on the bipartisan infrastructure law, and I know that brought new dollars to every corner of this state of Minnesota and to the country. This experience really showed me how investments in transportation can reach into hometowns across the country through programs like Safe Streets for All and expanded bridge funding and EV charging infrastructure. This type of transformational work essentially brought me back to public service in this position, which even after the years at the federal level, I know my heart is in state and local government, so I'm thrilled to be back. I'm a boomerang. That's what Minnesotans call people like me. I was recruited here in 2016. I left and, true story, cried on the couch and told my husband that we better start working on our plan to get back. Because once I lived here, I knew that I could not live anywhere else. So after my couple of years in Washington, we came back, and we came back for good. And why is that? Is because it's the quality of life that keeps us here, keeps your children here, makes them into boomerangs when they come back. And nowhere can we have this kind of impact, in my opinion, than when you have a portfolio like the Metropolitan Council. Clean air, clean water, gorgeous parks in this region. A system that works regionally for wastewater, that is rare and unique. A world-class transportation system that people rely on every day. These are hallmarks of a quality region and a quality place to be, and I'm very proud to be back in what I consider now my hometown, and to have this kind of impact that keeps people here and coming back. I knew this would happen. I'm going to skip over this section because I'm going a little long. You know the work that we do. It touches people's lives. And there's such a bright future. With Imagine 2050, we've got a blueprint for sustainable and prosperous growth for the region. And we know that when the Twin Cities thrives, so does the state. I truly believe that access to opportunity means ensuring everyone has what they need, not just to survive, but to thrive. That principle guides me in this role, and I'm committed to equitable outcomes. We've come so far in this, to investing in communities that have historically been left behind, and there is more to do. Our diversity makes us stronger. And just back to where I started here, I am truly humbled by this nomination, and I so appreciate this early opportunity to speak with the committee today. I am thrilled to work with you today and in the future, and I look forward to answering the questions that you have today. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Hutcheson. So I'll start off the questioning. As you're aware, I gave you a little forewarning that I had some questions of you that probably pertain more to the organization that you're coming into to head up, that has a long history and has been the source of a lot of debate and discussion for many years. And so I just wanted to set the stage a little bit and talk about the Metropolitan Council for just one moment. The Metropolitan Council is the nation's most powerful regional public body that is not governed by an elected board. Yet, it can levy taxes, issue certain bonds without an election, set binding regional policy, build infrastructure, and directly operate major public services. It's established in state law, placed under the supervision and control of 17 members, all of whom serve at the pleasure of the governor. We have appointment by the governor, of course, and confirmation of the Senate. It has independent taxing authority. The council may levy a tax on all taxable property in the metropolitan area for general purposes. It has specific levy authorities that include transit-related levies. It has major bonding and capital authority, like I mentioned, without a voter election. It can issue general obligation bonds in the words of the statute, except that no election shall be required. is a direct operator of major public services and infrastructure. Members, it is the strongest, whether we call it a local unit of government or a state agency of its kind, without any sort of direct electoral connection or accountability. Just to give you, some notion of the scale, if my numbers are correct, I ran through a bunch of the numbers. I should have called Krista, but I needed to get these numbers together, pulled pretty quickly. So we'll, I'll allow the record to be corrected either in real time or in the future. But total operating revenues are, north of $1 billion, 1.3. Major sources of revenue are, of course, state revenues that come in, federal revenues, municipal wastewater charges, industrial wastewater charges, fares from transit, property taxes, what we call sewer availability charges, the motor vehicle sales tax that gets collected by the state and transferred in. When you account all of the capital and other accounting, total revenues are almost $2.5 billion. Carries, about $1.5 billion in outstanding debt. It owns capital infrastructure of billions of dollars as well, and you get my general sense. So with that, I'll move to some questions that I have. So I'll ask kind of a group of questions that pertain to the structure of the Met Council and its authority. And I'll frame it up as I just did. The Metropolitan Council exercises taxing authority, makes multi-billion-dollar infrastructure decisions, directs land use planning, oversees major infrastructure systems. No member is elected. There is a constitutional doctrine, sometimes referred to as the non-delegation principle, which holds that elected bodies must not delegate powers, that's us, must not delegate powers of significant scale and scope to entities that lack direct democratic accountability. So I'll ask, and you see them in front of you, these next little series of questions. You can answer any or all of them in any form that you see fit, Ms. Hutcheson. How do you understand the council's legitimacy within that framework, with that information in mind? Do you believe the current governance structure of the Metropolitan Council remains the best model for the region? And if not, what reforms would you support? How do you understand your responsibility to provide democratic accountability within this existing structure or within a restructure that would be reformed? I should have been more precise in that question. In your view, what safeguards are necessary to ensure that the council's exercise of power remains consistent with democratic principles and constitutional limits on delegation? And specifically with respect to taxing and appropriations authority, what is your philosophy about restraint and transparency in exercising that authority?
Chair Dibble, excuse me, Chair Dibble, I appreciate the longstanding commitment that you have to continuous improvement for the Metropolitan Council. It's a long debated topic. I know this goes back decades, almost since its inception on structure. And it's your leadership and this body that continues to explore all possibilities for successful governance. There's no single structure that we resemble, and there's no other structures that resemble each other around the country. We are unique, as are many, and I don't believe there is one perfect way to do it. I think it's most important that in this early tenure of my position that I understand, excuse me, this is like a post-Burkabiner problem, and everyone offered me water and I said no. But
we'll have some water.
Here's I do need some, I apologize. What's most important is that I take the time, and I have your questions, which I so appreciate, to dig into some of these detailed questions, understand the perspective where you're coming from, and keep an open mind about the topic, because I am committed to the continuous improvement of the agency just like you are. There are a few things that I can respond to today and commit to. One, the continuous learning along with you. Two, responsiveness and transparency. You've taken the time to give me detailed questions, and I will take the time to respond. Whatever I don't respond to today, I will respond to. Three, we currently are on the hook for about 30 mandated reports back to the legislature. And I think this promotes a transparency of the work to you that will help build trust, that will be rooted in a spirit of accountability, the work that we are tasked to do and the work that we do. And then lastly, we do act with broad authority. And I believe that is of great impact and import to the region. And that authority is within the statutory boundaries that is set by the legislature. So whatever we do, whatever work we do on this, we are locked together in it because it's these authorities that we operate within. So I think as a general statement, I am very appreciative of your leadership in this area. We will be better for the conversations. As a chair, I ensure transparency and accountability. We will continue to work openly with you, to have an open mind, and thank you so much. I think increased reporting to you will help demonstrate our accountability.
Thank you. Well, that's a good segue to the kind of the next kind of theme of inquiry that I have. There's a longstanding concern from constituents and legislators about difficulty in accessing council members and good information about how well the council is operating and even what it is doing. I think these 30 reports are probably testament to, like, you know, every time we feel you know, some need to, you know, some gap, we order up a new report. And I don't know that 30 reports is a good thing. I think it's kind of a bad thing because, you know, it creates a kind of an influx of information in a format that's hard to discern and internalize and understand and act upon. So I'll just ask the next kind of grouping of questions around this theme of transparency to the public in relationship to the legislature. Are there any specific commitments you could make to ensure council members are accessible to residents and legislators, including regular public forums in each district? And you and I have discussed this previously, and you and I have a somewhat different perspective. I'll just say that at one time, council members were very, very intentional about reaching out to the residents of the districts they represent, as well as the leaders, their elected leaders and their stakeholders, and I don't see that happening much, at least not uniformly, broadly across each council member and their district. How will you ensure that legislators receive timely, accurate, and complete information, even when that information may be inconvenient? And by that, that's a nuance to say difficult information to deliver because it's not good news. We have created legislative reporting requirements for specific major capital projects above a certain dollar threshold. Should we expand that practice for all projects? And will you commit to enhanced public-facing budget dashboards or plain language reporting or independent performance audits for major capital projects as well as for operations and public services?
Thank you, Chair Dibble. These are, to me, on their face, easy questions and easy answers. It's like a yes, 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 and yes on these, and I'll just take the 4 things that I heard from you. Everything that I have seen, and I have a whole list of, just in case you ask me what I've been up to for the last 60 days, I have that whole list, if anyone wants to ask. And one of those things is I've met with nearly every council member in their district so far, just within the last 60 days. I have 2 more to go. And they are all, by what I can see, they are inviting me to meetings in their districts with their constituents, with their local elected leaders. And I am seeing a tremendous amount of commitment to working together with those in their district. And they would like, almost everyone has already invited me to something that they wish to do in a public setting in their district. So I think that is a very easy answer that I don't necessarily think that as a chair, I'm going to need to ensure this. This is happening. Where if I see that it isn't, I will encourage it and I will help it to happen. Second, yes, I came from transportation and public works, and data is how we do the work. Everything we do is going to be rooted in the data. And so sometimes that data tells a story that is great, and sometimes the data tells a story that is hard to deliver that story. And we will not shy away from that. We'll be rooted in the data. We will use it to tell the stories, and we will be open, honest, and transparent, even if the news isn't good. Though we have a lot of good news right now, just saying, there's a lot of good. Yes to as many public-facing parts of the information we can provide. Yes to plain language reporting. And we have a culture, an internal culture of audit. It is ongoing on the largest of projects and on our ongoing programs. And we're actually kicking up our work on our audit and restructuring in order to provide even more support for internal audit. So another yes there.
Thank you. The next question has to do with the relationship with the governor and kind of the what I view as the core role and mission of the Met Council, which is, of course, to advocate for what the metropolitan area needs. The Metropolitan Council occupies a unique place in our state's governance structure. It is appointed by the governor and ultimately accountable to the governor, I should say, and the Senate, but it's also accountable to the House. Yet it also has a distinct regional mission to plan, invest, and advocate for the needs of the metropolitan area. The governors carry responsibility for the entire state and oversee a large cabinet of commissioners. You're a member of the cabinet, but you're not a commissioner. You're the chair of this entity that we sometimes have struggled defining. Is it an agency? Is it a local unit of government? Sometimes it's one, sometimes it's the other, sometimes it's both. But inevitably, a governor's attention is divided across many competing priorities. So how do you envision ensuring that the council's mission, transit, housing, wastewater, infrastructure, regional planning, parks, et cetera, receives the sustained attention and priority it requires from the governor's office? And relatedly, how will you maintain clear lines of accountability to the governor as the only elected official in the council's direct chain of command, while still forcefully advocating for what the metropolitan region needs, even when those needs may compete with other statewide priorities?
Thank you, Chair Dibble. First, let me tell you how it's going right now, and hopefully this will give you a snapshot. I participate in every cabinet call. We, along with the regional administrator, who's disappointed he couldn't be here with us today, have a call with the governor's office every single week. This is open dialogue and discussion where we talk about our needs, our concerns, they share the same, and that is a way to be at the top of the list, is in these every week meetings that we have. The third thing is I am tenacious. And I want to be central to that team so that we can be as successful as possible. And I've been in this kind of position before where I'm one of many, and I'm able to stay current, and I will continue to do that with this governor's office.
Thank you. I'm going to skip over these next couple of ones here for the time being. Specific to Southwest LRT and institutional lessons, Senator Johnson Stewart and I were discussing this earlier. Do you want to pick up this line of questioning around Southwest LRT, what lessons we've learned and how we're going to avoid some of the pitfalls that case study presents?
I'd be happy to.
All right, Senator Johnson Stewart.
I wasn't going to bring it up unless you did. So, well, I still have questions about Southwest LRT, and I'm hesitant to bring it up because gratefully for those of us that are transit advocates, it's not been as much in the news lately as it has been, but I still have concerns about the delivery, the timeline, the budget. And Senator Dibble and I served 3 and 4 years ago. We had an opportunity to do a little bit of inquiry into that, but Senator Dibble, interrupt me if I misspeak, but I know I was very frustrated with the lack of accountability that I saw from the Met Council on some of those overruns. I think that project damaged many constituents' opinion of transit and project delivery from the state level. I don't want to overspeak, but I think that that project clearly, given the cost overruns and the timeline overruns, it did not serve our community well in terms of reputation. And we have a legislative audit report. We have several, I believe. And I just ask what lessons have been learned at the Met Council. Clearly, you were not the chair at the time, but can you expand on any practices or accountability processes that we can look forward to as we continue with Blue Line or with any other lines that happen to be constructed to complete the transit system? Senator.
Thank you. Chair Hutcheson.
Chair Dibble and Senator Johnson Stewart, I anticipated this question today. I know it's been a topic of this committee for the last several years, and I think it's fair to ask for updates and my perspective on it, being new to the role. I sit in this seat right now in a go-forward position. I'm very aware of the history of this project. In fact, I was the Public Works Director when it was under construction, so I've got a history, like a lot of people have a history with the project. It is striking, actually, to see how the Office of Legislative Audit, how the series of 4 audits has transformed the work of the Green Line extension. You asked how have things changed. It has made us a stronger agency. It has repaired much of, I think, much of the credibility issues with the Green Line extension, and it provides a roadmap to go forward with the Blue Line extension. You asked specifics, stronger project governance, clearer lines of authority, real-time financial monitoring. It is embedded in every project in all the ways that we do business. Just tell you personally, I'm very engaged in this. I have weekly meetings on Green Line. Last week, I did an end-to-end tour with the team. I've already met with concerned residents. We need to get this right. We're doing well. We are on track. We are about 90% built. All 16 stations are either under construction or finished. All of the LRT track is in place. We are optimistic about opening this line on time, and in my view, that's the very best thing we can do right now, is to get this line operational. It's been a long time and a lot of work by many, including you all. And I look forward to this home stretch where we can celebrate it.
Senator Johnson Stewart.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. What is the projected opening date?
Ooh.
On time is, you have to go like this, on time.
I think it's
already a few
safe
years late.
to say 2020. Can I look back here, 2027? 2027?
I have another question.
2027, thank you. I would love to say.
But what month in 2027?
Cannot answer that. Senator, don't have that answer for you today, but we will keep you very posted.
Senator Johnson Stewart.
Thank you. Just a follow-up. You talked about real-time cost reporting, and I guess I just would like to know exactly what that means. So I think one of the frustrations that we felt during Southwest LRT is we were finding out very, very late that costs were being overrun. We were finding out about these change orders, et cetera, et cetera. Is there a process in place that you can let us know about wherein we might know how, I wouldn't say for the Green Line, now we're going to be looking at the Blue Line. Yeah. And then if you would give us an update, has the Blue Line been funded? And when can we expect to see that project move forward. So first, just a short description of what kind of reporting processes we might be expecting or counting on, and then a status report on Blue Line would be appreciated. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Chair Hutcheson.
Chair Dibble, Senator, I will answer your question. Just to rephrase, we have real-time financial monitoring, which means that in those meetings every week, I know where we are. I think if we foresaw major budget issues, we would be transparent about it so that there would be no surprises. I do not foresee that at this time. On Blue Line extension, I'll just say again, a lot of lessons learned on the Green Line, really helping the Blue Line extension. We are working very closely with partners, Hennepin County. This body knows that there are multiple steps with the federal government, with the Federal Transit Administration. As we await further information from the Federal Transit Administration, we continue to support our partners in advancing the next steps of the project, and we're in the federal process, and sometimes that just takes getting to the next milestone, which was what we're up against here.
Senator Johnson Stewart.
I'll let you ask a few, and I may come up with something.
Great. Thank you. Just if we could spend another moment on this subject of Southwest LRT. What specifically, and you have this list of questions I have, around early warning, when there's an indication that cost overruns, and there's some risk of substantial financial circumstances that were or should have been anticipated, and culture of candor is another theme, ensuring that worst case scenarios and hard truths are dealt with, and when there's failure, this question of responsibility and accountability when the body is appointed and many layers removed from the kind of accountability that we're quite accustomed to in our exposure to the public.
Chair Dibble, your questions are centered on accountability, and I'm going to come back to my position right now as in a go-forward place from today forward. And what I can say is that today forward, we will not be afraid to present the hard realities or truths should we need to, which we don't today, should we need to. We are thinking we have more procurement tools available to us that will help us avoid surprises. Surprises will be met with honesty and will be shared so that everybody can anticipate. I like this culture of candor language that is here. I wholeheartedly agree with it. And I've never shied away from failure is really a relative term. If there's something that hasn't gone in the same straight line as you anticipated, identifying it early, presenting solutions, and continuing to move down a track with honesty and transparency isn't necessarily failure anymore. That's evolution. And that's how I'll approach this work.
Thank you. Senator Johnson Stewart.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I appreciate that. And I don't think today is the day that we need to, resolve who's accountable. But I think, and I'm speaking for just myself right now, not anybody else, but I think there is a concern that the Southwest project went over by over $1 billion. And I find that very hard to swallow as a Hennepin County taxpayer, because Hennepin County paid for much of that overrun. I find that hard to understand as a civil engineer and a construction manager. And I think, privately, I would like to discuss some accountability. I'm just saying that out loud and saying that as legislators, that's part of our jobs. $1 billion is an enormous overrun. And yes, I know there's the tunnel and there's many issues, but I think a what do they call it? Postmortem, not postpartum. I almost said the wrong thing. Postmortem on the project, I would very much appreciate that. Again, nothing other than to say we have to hold that process accountable. I think we owe it to the taxpayers. We owe it to our community. I want to see Southwest running. I cannot wait to ride that train. I am an enormous transit advocate, and I will continue to be your fan and your helper as you move forward. But I just want to go on record personally, as just this person, nobody else, that I think we owe it to our public to talk about accountability with a $1 billion overrun. It's just my 2 cents.
All right.
Thank you,
Were
Mr.
you looking
Chair.
for a response from the chair on this? All right. Thanks. Senator Jasinski.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and Chair Hutcheson. Again, thank you for coming and meeting with me today to introduce yourself. I do appreciate that. And I apologize you getting in a hot seat right away when you come in here today. It's almost like deja vu, because these are things that Republicans have been talking about for 10 years. And so if I close my eyes and listen to the conversation over here, I say, wow, listen to the Republicans argue about what's going on in Med Council. And we've been doing that since I came up here in 2016, I got elected 2017. We were complaining about cost overruns, Met Council, all these things. And again, I'm a rural guy, as I mentioned to you. Is not directly involved with the Met Council or directly affected in my district, but obviously have those same concerns that we're hearing here today, a little bit differently on the confirmation process. And again, I know this is not your fault and this is a discussion. We had a confirmation process that if we were not happy with what was going on, we could actually have that confirmation powers. And in 2023, that got taken away from us. So you've been on the job for, I believe, 2 or 3 months, and how we're supposed to understand if you're performing well or not and confirm you is frustrating to me, because we should have that time to understand that. I do understand the transparent accessibility, which I do appreciate. But we've been talking about waste, fraud, and abuse, overruns, again, for my 9.5 years here, and the frustration that's happening in the governor's administration of this money. And I'll tell you, in my district, as I told you today, people are upset. The fraud, the waste, the abuse, the money that's going away, people are mad. And this is not your fault. You've just taken the position. I feel bad. Again, you're sitting in this position today. But listening to the debate we've had so far, this is what Republicans have been talking about for 9 years. The cost overruns, the waste, the fraud, the abuse of money that taxpayers are footing the bill for, and then having really no control because the governor can appoint this council. You're not elected. You're spending the taxpayer money. And from my local government experience that I came in almost 30 years ago, I remember going to League of Minnesota Cities conferences about Met Council. I didn't know what Met Council was. I was a new guy out of college, didn't even know what Met Council was. And at that time, it was water and sewer consolidation in the metro. That was it. And look how the scope has exploded. And it has exploded to an appointed board and an appointed chair, basically executive powers by the governor and the administration of spending taxpayer money. And Senator Dibble took a little bit of honor today talking about, we are elected to do that. We're not appointed. So if we're not doing the job correctly, we get unelected. If we're spending taxpayer money irregardlessly, we get unelected, or don't get reelected, I should say. But in this position, as Senator Dibble and Senator Johnson Stewart, mostly Senator Dibble, the makeup of the board and how it's done has been a topic of discussion for all 9 years I've been here. And the cost overruns, and the spending, and all those things. So again, I welcome and thank you for coming into my office, and I look forward to working with you. But those are my frustrations, as I said. We have gotten that Senate confirmation process taken away from us under the trifecta. So again, you've only been on the job 2 to 3 months. And we're going to be here confirming you not knowing what your performance is. So that's the frustrating part. Thank you.
Were you looking for a response from the chair?
Sure.
All right. Chair Hutcheson.
Chair Dibble, Senator Jasinski, it's a good sign hearing your open frustration. and it allows me to understand where you're coming from and the points where you're frustrated. I think the concerns over fraud have been taken seriously by Governor Walz and very seriously by the Metropolitan Council, and we've doubled down on our internal culture of investigation and of audit. We aim to provide the highest and best quality service to residents in our region. Yes, there are taxes, and yes, there is tremendous benefit in providing a world-class transportation system, regional wastewater services, as I said, and I'm a lover, amazing parks and trails and natural spaces and open spaces, housing programs that really benefit our region and our state. My aim is to work as closely and transparently with you as possible. I'm fortunate to be able to sit here just 2 months in so that I can hear what's on the minds of this committee. And it will only help us work together in the future. So thank you so much for sharing that with me.
Senator Jasinski.
Just one last comment, and again, you mentioned that the governor is taking this seriously, and I guess my frustration is it took him 7 years. It took him until the year before he announced he was going to run for re-election to take fraud seriously. We've been talking about this for 7 years, and finally the governor thinks he's going to do something about it, and he announced it this summer after we've been harping on it for years and years and years. So frustrating. No comment needed, but just wanted to make that point clear.
All right, thank you. So I'll move on to my, I do need to circle back. I appreciate that we're moving forward. It is important to talk about Southwest LRT because it is illustrative, it is the case study. And I think it's a form, following function, in the form, resulting in predictable outcomes. And I've commended to you, and hopefully you have taken a look at the series of, I think, all told, 6 examinations by the Office of the Legislative Auditor, which found that the overruns and all the other problems either should have been known or were known, and the ball was hidden, and there was a deliberate effort. It points clearly to a couple of things: lack of candor, cultural removal from the kinds of accountability mechanisms that Senator Jasinski just spoke about, and an awareness that at some point the project was too big to fail, and so those of us who are accountable to the public had no choice but to continue to move on, whether those are Hennepin County commissioners or legislators or city council members, et cetera, just to continue to give the resources, the burgeoning resources that the project demanded. So please read those reports. Please take the lessons to heart that those reports show, because every attempt that we've made to reform the Met Council so that these things don't happen have been very effectively rebuffed by the mobilization of staff at the Met Council with stakeholders in the region, and have been effectively shut down. So hope springs eternal. I think ultimately we will get substantive reform that's meaningful, that's needed, given the incredible reach of power that the Met Council has, unique in this country. But in the meantime, we need capable people of goodwill take those lessons to heart, so that we don't ultimately end up with a dissolution of the Met Council, which has been proposed many times, which I think would be a disaster for this region, and that's kind of how some people feel around here, is that's the only way to resolve. So with that, that setup kind of brings me to kind of the internal operations of the Met Council. And this question may sound a little bit paradoxical, but for better or for worse, the Met Council members are the individuals who are responsible for governing, along with you as the chair of that council. And they, their vote and their decision-making, it has amazing and awesome authority behind it. Setting policy, issuing bonds, acquiring tax dollars, appropriating tax dollars, and on it goes. Yet, there is a perception that major policy and financial decisions are largely formulated within staff channels before council members ever see them publicly, there is a perception that council members feel structurally subordinate to the governor, to the chair, and oftentimes the chair as the agent of the unelected bureaucracy. So in your view, what is the proper balance of authority between staff, the chair, and the council members? What will you do to ensure that council members receive objective information early enough in sufficient depth to exercise independent judgment rather than simply reacting to fully formed staff recommendations presented at the dais in the form of the proverbial staff report? How will you cultivate a culture within which council members are not merely ratifying decisions, but actively exercising oversight and shaping outcomes? And how will you guard against institutional drift in which professional staff become the de facto decision makers? And I'll just ask the final question, will you commit to protecting staff and contractors who raise concerns, whether to internal or to external authorities? And I'll just say, by way of example, on numerous occasions, I have met with the bureaucrats about a decision that's looming, with which I believe needed some nuance or some change or a different outcome than what was presented to me, a decision that wasn't going to be considered or voted on by the council members for months, in which I'd suggested a change in direction or an engagement with council members, whereupon I had been informed that the decision is locked in, which of course defies all reasonable logic when the council members are supposed to be the deliberative body who make the final decision. So to have a decision presented as final before it even gets to the dais is perplexing. Thank you, Chair Hutcheson.
Chair Dibble, there are numerous questions within the question, and so I may answer more generally than will satisfy you today, but I will continue to work with you on this. I have not witnessed this in my 2 months here. We are a committee-driven organization. A lot of the work and discussion and questions and delving deep into the work happens during committee. It may, in my estimation, it may appear like it's locked from the start because the more public setting is in the council meeting, but every decision that comes before council, in my estimation, has been supported by collaboration between council members and staff, vetted through committee work with hard questions asked at committee. I can commit to you that I will keep an eye out for this, and I will offer to you, Senator, that if you see this or feel this, that you can come to me and we will discuss it.
Thank you. Senator Nelson.
Excuse me. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just an interesting conversation that I know we've all had many times before. And, you know, it just brought to my mind as I was listening to the fact that this is an all-appointed board and there is no election, there's no election. It made me wonder, well, there's a lot of things in this world that there are not elections for. But when we're talking about taxpayer dollars, of course, it made me wonder, what is the budget for the Met Council? And do you have that number, Commissioner? Yeah. So, well, Mr. Chair, I have
Senator
the number that I was able to locate, which some of you might, it looks like for fiscal year 2026, the proposed budget is $1.79 billion. That is a staggering amount. Now, I'm not saying that the amount might not be needed. I can't speak to all of those needs as to why that budget is $1.79 billion for the 7-county metro area. The one thing that bothers me as someone who doesn't live in that area is that this appears to be taxation without representation. I don't know where the representation is for these type of taxes. I don't understand where the accountability is. I don't understand how the taxpayers need to pay that type of taxation without being able to even speak at an election about it. So I'm not asking for a comment necessarily, but I just wanted to mention the size and scope of this. And with that in mind, if I had one piece of advice, which this is not my area of expertise, but I would say it appears that there has seemed to be scope creep. And that happens a lot. And it would make so much sense to perhaps rein that scope in a little bit, perhaps to the original intent. Thank you.
Thank you. Sounded like a statement. Don't know if we need a response. Senator Johnson Stewart.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want to point out something that I just want to say out loud and quite loudly that Met Council is responsible for all of our sewage. So I think that in all of my interactions, frankly, I've done a lot of sewage inspection. I've dropped a lot of civil engineering self-promotion in this hearing, but I just want to say that they run a great sewage system, and I just want to gently remark to Senator Nelson that a lot of your operating budget is in fact sewage fees. So it's not necessarily taxation with representation, but it is payment for a service well done. And I don't know if you could comment, but what portion of your budget is the environmental services? Because I just, that's something that not a lot of people want to think about, but sincerely, Met Council's sewage system, and it is remarkable. If you guys want to get a tour down there, I would love to take you through Pig's Eye. It is amazing, and I just want to bring it up because we think of Met Council just as Metro Transit, but environmental services is a huge part, and maybe you could comment on what portion of your budget is environmental services. Thank you.
Chair Hutcheson.
Chair Dibble, Senator Johnson Stewart. I honestly had to look back at the teams. I didn't bring those numbers with me, but it's about a third of the budget is wastewater treatment. And thank you for your enthusiasm. I share it.
We should all be so grateful.
Well, I'll say about environmental services, the sewer and the wastewater treatment. It is a good news story. We pay far, far less as a metropolitan area because of the efficiency that's gained, the economies of scale that are gained by a regionalized system. Those of us on the bonding committee know that these small little hamlets that have these giant wastewater systems, on a per capita basis are paying unbelievable amounts. So that is a good news story. I don't think it's perfect, though. I think a lot of the way the construction of the interceptors is carried out sometimes lacks, and also there's a whole land use and are we maximizing the use of our metropolitan area in the ways that the Met Council is directed to do so by law. I think falls down quite a bit. That debate continues, but it is overall a good news story. I see Senator Jasinski with his hand up, Senator Farnsworth with his hand up. So Senator Jasinski.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And again, I think as Transportation Committee members, you have to think of the whole state, not just our districts, but a lot of importance. And I always push roads and bridges in my district because that means a lot. Transit and that stuff doesn't hit my district at all. Looking at the actual taxpayers, it's collected statewide by taxpayers, as you would say. Motor vehicle sales tax, 40% of that goes into the Met Council. That number, I believe, Krista's told me, $387.7 million approximately in 2026. I said rounded at 390, but it's about 387. So that money, again, from the frustration of our residents in my district are wanting that money spent wisely. And again, as you mentioned, the scope creep has gone crazy. Again, I got elected as city council, I want to date myself here, back in 1993. And again, League of Minnesota Cities educated us on what the Met Council was. It was water and sewer infrastructure. And that scope has exploded. And, that's the frustration. Again, we want to spend money wisely in the state of Minnesota, and we're collecting that motor vehicle sales tax, which raised again in 2023, but about $387 million of taxpayer money across the state is being spent in the Med Council, and that's a huge thing. And again, taxation without representation is a frustration. We as electeds are responsible to do that, and being as appointed, and again, appointed all by the governor, is frustrating because the money being spent and how things have gone in the last many years. Again, I've been here, this is my 10th year, and we've been talking about Met Council and the spending and the waste and the fraud and the abuse for 10 years. This would be my 10th year, so it's frustrating, but thank you.
Thank you. Senator Farnsworth.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, Chair Hutcheson. I live 2.5 hours away from the closest Met Council community, so most of this doesn't really affect me except when I'm down here. But Senator Johnson Stewart's comments about the waste sort of reminded me of a question that I have. And it relates to my area, and it relates to every area in the state, which is the sulfate standard, 10 parts per million, that all municipalities, industrial companies are going to have to meet. And so I'm wondering, with the waste treatment, does the Met Council meet the 10 parts per million? And I suspect that it does not. And if it does not, what's the cost to bring the Met Council into compliance?
Chair Hutcheson, if you know, you can answer. Otherwise, you can phone a friend, or you can come back with an answer or send an answer in
Chair
later.
Dibble and Senator Farnsworth, I'm going to come back to you with an answer on that. It's a great question. I'm probably going to dig deep into the science now. I'm probably going to go back and learn more than I ever thought about 10 parts per million. I don't have an answer for you today, but I will respond.
Senator Farnsworth.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I guess I'm getting to the point that it's going to cost small municipalities tens of millions of dollars to meet the standard. It's going to cost businesses tens of millions. And so Chair Dibble talked about how you provide this service at a reasonable cost, and meeting that standard is going to become much, much less reasonable for ratepayers in the metropolitan area. And so I think that's something that we should start talking about, that sulfate standard that's not really based on science. And then the other comment that I wanted to say, in regards to the Southwest Light Rail and being over budget, like, we really shouldn't be surprised by that. And the reason, I'll say something that my dad, when I first had kids, my dad was giving me fathering advice or parenting advice, and he said, your kids are going to do what you do, so make sure you're careful about what you do in front of them. And so we shouldn't be surprised that the Southwest line is over budget. I mean, look at what we've done in the last couple of years. We passed a paid family leave that's wildly over budget, and we took the lowest actuarial estimate, and we're like, yeah, this isn't going to cost that much. And a month later, after session ended, we're like, whoops, $600 million over budget, or we passed free school lunch, and we're told that's going to cost about $192 million. And I think we're somewhere around $400 million a year. So I'm not too excited about pointing fingers at the Met Council saying, hey, you're way over budget on the Southwest line, when we're passing bills and we're hundreds of millions of dollars per year over budget. So I think we need to get our house in order. And it should start with the fraud, but it also should start with actually having the real numbers for the programs that we pass in the legislature.
Senator Johnson Stewart.
Just a quick, so I did find it on AI, but then I verified it through the Environmental Services website that Met Council does meet the EPA standards. But remember, the 10 parts per million is for wild rice waters. And so I would assume, it says it meets all environmental standards, referencing the 10 parts per million. But I don't know what the wild rice waters situation is in the Met Council effluent area, but just an FYI, it appears that they do meet it. But point well taken.
And I will say for the record, we do have major capital organization that builds stuff, that usually delivers major capital projects, almost always on time and on budget. That's the Department of Transportation. So it is an expectation that we can have of entities that do major infrastructure, and the infrastructure that the Met Council handles on the sewer and wastewater treatment side has been delivered very, very cost effectively. So, and I disagree with you, by the way, on the consequence and effect on our budget of free school meals and on paid family medical leave, and what are the drivers of of some of our budget. So I don't think it's about, anyways, we'll get into that another time, in another place. All right, anything further, members? Okay. Let me just say, let me do this first. Chair Hutcheson, I'll give you the floor to make any concluding comments, and I'll make my concluding comments in a motion.
Chair Dibble, thank you so much for inviting me to speak with the committee today. I've appreciated the detailed questions, and I hope that my responses have been informative to you about my style and about my subject matter expertise and my ability to lead a large organization with complex projects. These are complex projects full of opportunity for the region and full of opportunity for the state. I intend to do this job fully transparently. I am available to you should you need me to return on any topic that we've covered today or future topics, and my staff is available to you as well. I want to thank this committee for raising what are longstanding concerns with me so that I can hear them for myself, and that we can continue to, as I said the word before, evolve our practice towards truly beneficial projects and programs for the region. Thank you so much.
All right, well, thank you so much for that. And just a little bit about why this hearing is being held so soon after the appointment. First of all, you've been on the job for how long?
Oh, like 62 days.
All right,
like
so
that.
a couple months. But who's counting? I had a couple of goals. One was to scare you out of the job, to see after this hearing and our strength and depth of feeling if you still want it. But seriously, to have, as you articulated very well, an early conversation and a frank conversation, not necessarily a measure of your capacity and your competence and your success. I am very familiar with you, stemming back to your time as the Director of Public Works at the City of Minneapolis, and a little bit, we had some contact and some interface when you worked at the federal level. And so I'm very, very confident in you and your abilities and your values, and all the things I would hope for from a chair of an entity that is not optimal, in my opinion, in terms of its structure, in terms of for all the reasons that I cited. But if we're going to have a chair, I'm happy to have a chair of your caliber and of your character and of your experience and values that you bring. A lot of confidence in you, and very happy for your appointment. And I'll just add for the record that a number of the leaders at the Met Council, I think, bring a level of professionalism and capability and competence and connection and candor and all the things that I'm looking for at an agency that, again, should be structured dramatically differently. Awesome responsibility and authority and power without the level of accountability back to the public it serves that we would expect in a representative democracy. But if we're going to have this kind of a format and formulation of this entity, I think a lot of the people who are in place, which are different than people that were there, as recently as 5 plus years ago, I think that's a good thing. So that's an expression of confidence in you and much of the leadership team there. So with that, I never quite know what the requirements are for chairs making motions. So I'm going to ask Senator Johnson Stewart. I'm going to hand this piece of paper down and ask you to make this motion.
All right.
Oh, I'm going to ask for the rest of the committee if they have any comments at this point. Anything further? All right, Senator Johnson Stewart.
All right, I move that the committee recommend to the Senate the confirmation of Robin Hutcheson for chair of the Metropolitan Council.
All right, any questions? Anything further? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed say no. Motion carries. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Chair Dibble. Thank you to the committee.
All right, well, that took slightly longer than I thought it would, but I think we're still good on track to deal with the remaining two bills. We have a senator visiting from afar. So we have the the two bills are a senator who's on the committee, so we'll move the visiting senator up. Senator Limmer, if we could invite you to the testifiers table so that you can present Senate File 1373. Senator Limmer, just for your information, we are going to hear the bill and lay it on the table for further consideration. So, all right. Whenever you're ready, Senator Limmer, please proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm dealing with a little cold today, so bear with me. Senate File 1373 is before us today. This bill passed the Judiciary Committee last year and was re-referred to your Transportation Committee. And in the other body, it's awaiting second orders right now. Before I begin, we do have an author's amendment that I'd like to have considered, and I would appreciate it if council would explain the amendment. I was told it's a technical amendment.
Oh, thank you. All right. So yeah, this is not the committee of origin, so let's get an explanation of the amendment prior to Senator Jasinski moving it and our consideration. Council.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. This is Amendment A1 to SF 1373. This is a technical amendment that just makes some updates the bill from last year. So it updates the effective date to 2026 from 2025. And then in Section 2, Subdivision 3 was amended last year, some unrelated language. So we had to pull in the changed language from the 2025 statutes and made an identical change. So these are purely technical.
Thank you. Senator Jasinski moves the A1 amendment. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed say no. Motion carries. Senator Limmer.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This legislation is based on the tragic events experienced by our constituents, Matt Whalen and Mark Rowe. As you'll hear, Matt's wife's grandmother was killed by a driver who was going 90 miles an hour in a 45-mile-an-hour zone. It was in the middle of the day. No drugs or alcohol was used by the perpetrator, just the high rate of speed. During the investigation, the family found out that the perpetrator's driver license was not automatically suspended for previous vehicular crimes because the statute for suspension in criminal vehicular homicide or criminal vehicular operation only requires suspension when there's drugs or alcohol involved. There is a relatively recent news article that's in your packets today, and as we read into the second, third pages, you'll find that after the tragic crash that killed their grandmother, Mr. Whalen learned that the driver shouldn't have been driving at all. He did not have a valid driver's license and had several speeding-related offenses in years before the crash. He had a revoked license and was charged with criminal vehicular homicide by the Hennepin County Attorney's Office. But less than a month after the crash, court documents showed that Keyes, the perpetrator, was once again speeding 88 miles an hour in a 60-mile zone. So this individual definitely does not respect speed limits. He seems to be a chronic speeder and at the great risk of safety and life to constituents elsewhere on the road. The car was hit so hard that it smacked into a townhome off the road. And quite honestly, we have a system where the commissioner can suspend a driver's license when it comes to the vehicular homicide or operation charges, but it's only limited to when there are drugs or alcohol involved. This particular bill would alter that, and the commissioner could suspend at the time of any vehicular homicide or operation charge. At this point, I'm going to ask one of our both constituents wanted to say a few words, and I'd like to start with Mr. Matt Whalen.
Mark Rowe.
Oh, Mark Rowe.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
All right, Mr. Whalen.
My name is Mark Rowe, ROE.
Mr. Rowe.
I'm just, want to just tell you from the family standpoint, you know, kind of what we've been through. My son-in-law, Matt, is the one kind of spearheading this, so I give him, you know, all the credit for getting us to where we are here today. But, you know, we had a situation where, you know, my mother-in-law was over at our house on a sunny May afternoon. She was having lunch with my daughter, her granddaughter, and her great-grandchildren. She left, you know, around, I don't know, 3 in the afternoon, was driving home to see her husband, who was in memory care, turning into her neighborhood, and this guy hit her coming down Highway 101 in Plymouth, going 90 miles an hour in a 45 zone. Again, like Senator Limmer said, hit her so hard she went over the curb, down an embankment, hit a townhome, broke the inside wall of the townhome. He hit her so hard. He was then charged with vehicular homicide. He was probably driving a few days later. His license was not even taken. I don't know the exact details, but I don't think his license was taken away at that time. He ended up being convicted. He served 8 months in the workhouse. He got his license revoked for 10 years. About 8 months later, he's driving a brand new BMW through Matt's neighborhood. The unfortunate thing is he lives about 8 houses down from where Matt lives. So they have the, you know, the unfortunate thing of seeing him drive around the neighborhood still to this day. He was driving this weekend. I don't know if he's got like a work permit, but he's obviously abusing the work permit and still driving around. At high rates of speed. Matt and him go to work probably the same time in the morning, and Matt has seen him driving in excessive speeds to this day. So from the family standpoint, it's just something's got to be done. He shouldn't even be on the road at all now. I mean, I understand work permits, but obviously that's being abused. But from the family standpoint, it's been totally frustrating watching this guy kill my mother-in-law and barely do any type of time in the workhouse or jail or anything, and I'll be driving around the neighborhoods. So I'll let Matt say what you know, he's spearheading to get done here, because like I said, he's been doing the majority of the work on this.
Great. Thank you. Mr. Whalen.
Good afternoon, everybody. It sounds like I need a job with the Med Council. Sounds like they got some big bucks in there. Let's start on a soft note. Thanks for taking the time to hear this today. Yeah, so really the frustrating situation going through learning everything about vehicular homicide and how individuals are charged, and unfortunately dealing with this process and learning a lot along the way has led me to Kristen Robbins. She was really good with me and starting this bill. And really what it really does is, you know, it takes the weapon away from the person that used the weapon. The weapon in this case was a vehicle. He was driving at a high rate of speed, killed somebody. You shouldn't be able to give the weapon back the same day when they exit the jail, you know. We should take these weapons away from those individuals that need to learn their lesson. And the weapon is taken away once they are charged with criminal vehicular homicide or criminal vehicular operation, to make that very clear. In this case, like my father-in-law said, yeah, he lives about a block away from us. He does drive to and from work and wherever else he's going. I see him about 5:30 in the morning every morning, getting on Highway 55, and he still drives pretty fast. I can't change that today. Can't change anything that has happened. But for other people that might be put in a situation, this can change something for them. And I think, you know, beyond this bill, everybody needs to look further into, you know, criminal vehicular homicide and what what's actually being done and really hold the county attorneys accountable to push for prosecution. 8 months in the workhouse for killing somebody, and you've been charged multiple times for speeding, is absolutely ridiculous. He should have been in prison, the minimum of 4 years. I would have thought that would have been fair, but we don't have our grandma here today because he was driving like a moron, and it's unfortunate. But I think this bill can help other people in situations moving forward and hopefully hold everybody accountable.
Thank you, Mr. Whalen.
Thank you.
Questions, members of our witnesses? So let me just express my gratitude for your willingness to come forward. It's difficult, I can only imagine, and our condolences and our regret for what you've experienced. Questions, members of, before we go back to Senator Limmer, if I could ask Ms. Boyd, we have, I don't know if it was in our packets or not, I'm not sure, but there is a fiscal note that shows a de minimis cost. Ms. Boyd.
Mr. Chair, thank you. I believe it was included in the packets. There's not much to say about it. It's under the House file number, and it's from last year. The language has not changed in the bill except for the technical amendment adopted today. I don't believe that the year since will have changed any costs. If we find out differently, we'll get an updated note. But right now, you can see there is zero fiscal impact listed in the bill. In fact, the only expenditures listed will be on page 4 under the Department of Public Safety. It's estimated that a form will need to be changed and that cost would be absorbed at about $4,000 from the Special Revenue Fund.
Thank you. Questions of Ms. Boyd? All right. Questions from the committee for Senator Limmer?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And Senator Limmer, thank you for bringing this bill forward, and thank you to testifiers, and thank you for testifying. It's scary what happens out there, and I hope we can change this so it doesn't happen to anybody else. And if there's no other comments, I'd make a motion. If nobody else has any comments. Oh, lay on table. Okay, thank you, and thank you.
So I do have a question. Well, first I'll just say thank you, Senator Limmer. I support the general intent of the bill, and for members who want, these things get a little wonky and a little, if you're not an attorney who works in this realm, it's a little hard to understand, but the basic version, tell me if I don't have this right, Senator Limmer, is in those instances when there is probable cause to believe that someone has committed the offense of criminal vehicular homicide or criminal vehicular operation, colloquially referred to as CVH or CVO. Under current law, under certain circumstances that attach to that incident, someone's license is suspended pending, conviction. And then, of course, the conviction that would then result in a revocation. And what this bill would do is would remove those circumstances, and in all circumstances when there's probable cause to believe that someone has committed CVH or CVO, their license would be suspended. So you wouldn't have this kind of hard to understand circumstance where someone has done something like this, but because they don't meet the tests or the circumstances that are in law now, they can start driving. They can walk away from the crash and scene and get in a car and drive away. It is a little bit troubling and maddening. My one question, though, Senator Limmer, is it does eliminate, for lack of a better way of expressing it, the credit for time served, if you will, the amount of time presently that someone's license is revoked if they're ultimately found guilty of the charge. Under current practice, that suspension period is subtracted from the revocation period. So what is your, explain a little bit more your reason for including that aspect of the bill that wouldn't allow for the suspension time to count against the revocation period?
Mr. Chair, you are correct. This takes a firmer stand against those who would have a license revoked pending their court case, and upon conviction, then it would be formally revoked. In this particular case, well, in existing law, you are correct. The suspension time would be counted amongst the time served, calling it time served, and it would be included in the revocation time period. This particular bill does not do that. It adds the revocation on top of the suspension. It's taking a little firmer stand on this. This is, I wish I could say this was a unique case, but it seems like there are a number of drivers that are out there that simply cannot come to terms about the responsibility they have when they get in a 4,000-pound missile and drive it radically different than what is expected, causing harm and death to those nearby. And this does take a particular firmer stand, and I would hope that the committee would not only understand that, but agree that this is a path that we should go forward on.
Thank you. Questions, members? Okay. I do want to talk about that point a little bit more with you, maybe not today in this setting. And in any case, we are going to lay this bill on the table for possible inclusion, either in an omnibus transportation finance, or excuse me, policy bill, because I don't think it really, with the de minimis fiscal note, I don't think it needs to go on to finance. So we can include it. Senator.
Just for your own reference, I know the other body is moving it separately.
Right.
So they have the prerogative of adding it into an omnibus bill, and so do you. So just to keep that in mind to match it up.
Very good. Take that under advisement. And also, I have had conversation with your good friend, the chair of Judiciary, and they might be taking it up in an omnibus bill of theirs. So we're going to sort all that out. Very good. All right. Anything further? With that, we will lay Senate File 1373 on the table for possible inclusion in a future bill. Thank you very much.
Thank you,
All right.
Mr. Chair.
All right. I will ask Senator Johnson Stewart to come forward for Senate File 3623. Senator Johnson Stewart. Welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Committee members, Senate File 3623 is a bill that has to deal with vehicles approaching school buses, and I want to acknowledge my co-author, Senator Jasinski and Senator Putnam. Thank you, Senator Jasinski. So this bill is an important bill because it clarifies Minnesota's school bus law. Our current law states that a driver has an obligation to stop at least 20 feet away for a school bus with a stop arm that is extended and displaying flashing red lights. And this has become somewhat ambiguous for some drivers. This bill will delete the reference to the extended stop arm and tying the obligation to stop solely to when the amber stop lights begin flashing. So it is a more clear distinction for drivers approaching any school bus in that they have to stop if they see the flashing amber lights. I routinely am following school buses on my way to work in the morning, and it is very ambiguous. I live on a county road, surprisingly, and I see many times drivers speed around a school bus as it's starting to stop and before the red lights come on. So I think this is an important bill. I have two testifiers.
Great. Thank you. Who would like to go first?
Mr. Chairman, I'd be happy to go first.
All
We
right.
actually have four,
Mr.
because we have
Seifert.
State Patrol and another
sorry.
testifier, but that's okay.
Senator, we have 4 testifiers.
All right. Very good. All right. So, I mean, we have, a good amount of committee time left, but, nothing terrible about ending committee early. So if you could keep your
We'll be brief.
testimony somewhat
Thank you.
brief.
Mr. Chairman, thank you Marty Cipher with the School Bus Operators Association, Flaherty and Hood. Mr. Chair, first of all, I know there was discussion about it going to another committee. We did have the bill narrowly tailored with State Patrol and the school bus operators to keep the title and a 2-sentence bill to just keep it to transportation. There's no change of penalties. There's no change of anything else.
Before you continue on, we are not going to send it to judiciary.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair. Just wanted to
It does
clarify.
not need to go there, so we will lay it over
Thank you.
for possible inclusion.
Well, Mr. Chair, we thought we were moving it separately because of the time sensitivity, and I can address that real quickly if you will. Mr. Chairman, the bill Senator Johnson Stewart has is up early, and it's very imperative. We had a court ruling last year that the stop arm has to be fully extended and the red lights flashing for traffic to be expected to stop. We had a driver that challenged this in court because the stop arm was about 90% extended, and they zoomed past a bunch of kids who were standing there almost hitting them. And so working with State Patrol and the stakeholders, we just basically said if the red lights are flashing, you stop. And not whether the stop arm is halfway out or 90% out or fully out or partway out. And this is imperative on time sensitivity because school is going on right now. And if we wait for an omnibus bill later, every day that goes by, and Ms. Forward will have an example from yesterday that she heard, every day that goes by is a day where kids are in jeopardy because as the word gets out that you can hit the accelerator and zoom around a school bus because that arm isn't fully out, you may have irresponsible drivers, just like the people you were listening to a minute ago, wanting to zoom around the bus. So we've got an agreement with the other body to move it standalone out of transportation.
Let me just stop you. That's fine. I remember that being mentioned to me in the hallway, but you know how these things go.
Yeah,
That's a quick conversation. You have to work with my staff to make those things clear.
Sorry about that.
Ms. Ethier needs to know, Mr. Gillis needs to know.
Sorry
so that I
about
don't
that,
have to remember this stuff and we don't get confused at the table here. Thank you.
Sorry about that, Mr. Chair. So, Mr. Chair, the nature of this being an immediate effective date rather than an August 1st date is because of the time-sensitive nature of it. We want to thank Senator Johnson Stewart, Senator Jasinski, others in this room who have worked with us on the bill. We know of no opposition and there's no fiscal cost.
Great. Please introduce yourself and proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. My name is Catherine Forward, and I'm here on behalf of the Minnesota School Bus Operators Association, representing student transportation providers across the state of Minnesota. First and foremost, our industry has one mission: the safe transportation of Minnesota students. Every decision we make, every policy we support is centered around student safety. The recent Minnesota Supreme Court ruling around stop arms being fully extended has created an unintended and serious safety gap. When making a student stop, the amber lights are activated to give an initial warning, but next school bus drivers are trained to activate the red lights and the stop arm. The red lights are flashing prior to the stop arm being fully extended to provide traffic with immediate and advance warning. In this moment, children are waiting to cross or enter the roadway. In real-world operation, that moment is critical. If motorists are now permitted to continue driving until the stop arm is fully extended, we have effectively created a dangerous window of time that places children at risk. As word spreads about this ruling, the concern is not theoretical. We are worried about the behavioral changes. If motorists believe they can legally proceed while the arm is almost extended, some will push that limit. That split-second decision could have devastating consequences. This bill provides clarity, it restores common sense intent to the law, and if the red lights are flashing, motorists must stop. Our school bus drivers are highly trained professionals. They follow strict procedures designed around layered systems, lights, stop arms, mirrors, positioning, and communication. Weakening one layer weakens the entire system. We would appreciate your support of this bill as the immediate effective date is critical. Students are on buses today, and we cannot afford any ambiguity in the law when children's lives are involved. Therefore, on behalf of the Minnesota School Bus Operators Association, our drivers, and the families we serve, we respectfully ask for your support in quickly passing the Senate File 3623 as a standalone bill. Thank you.
Thank you. Questions, members? All right, moving on to an additional 2 testifiers. Please come forward.
Thank you.
All right, please introduce yourself and then proceed.
Yes, Good afternoon, Mr. Chair and committee members. My name is Garrett Regan, and I'm the VP of Corporate Development at Minnesota Coaches. So from an individual company's perspective, safety is our core business in the school bus industry, and we focus on so many different factors to make that come into fruition every single day. So the bus is reinforced with rub rails. It's yellow. It's got compartmentalization on the inside among numerous safety pieces of the equipment to allow the school bus to be safe. We also have school bus drivers that go through rigorous training to become school bus drivers and continual training to stay drivers. Background checks, drug testing, physicals, et cetera, allow for our school bus drivers and buses to be very safe. We have the stop arm bill that is very important to us because that involves something that's outside, a little bit outside of our control. We can control the school buses, we can control the individuals that drive the buses, but we can't control the other guy, if you will, that's out there on the road. So cleaning up this little piece of language is a small detail, but a very big detail that will allow us to do all that we can do to allow individuals to know when it is safest to stop. And that's every single day when we see the red lights flashing. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Questions, members? Senator Jasinski.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank Mr. Regan. Thanks for, first of all, thank you for your bus service and what you do. They operate in my district. You guys do a phenomenal job, both in the coach line and the school buses. For those of you who have been bonding tours, these guys provide the buses every single year to take us on bonding tours across the state, and your staff is phenomenal. But I actually just have a technical question. So when the bus driver is driving, I'm assuming before he gets to the stop, he pushes the button that goes orange. But one actually, do the red lights come on when he hits the stop sign out, and how's the timing of that work is my question. So again, I'm assuming as they're approaching, they hit the orange lights, warning people, but then what actually triggers the red lights, or what triggers the stop sign to go out? How does that operation happen? If you could just explain it to the committee, please.
Mr. Regan.
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Chair and committee members. So when the door is open, so most buses these days have a switch or button that you press that opens the door. When that door opens, the red lights are activated. The bus must be fully stopped at that point. The older back number of years, when you started to open the door manually, that's when the 8 lights or the red lights started to flash.
How does it operate with the arm?
The arm then, the stop arm starts to come out when the red lights start to flash and when the door starts to open.
So,
Senator Jasinski.
So they're simultaneously, basically, as the red lights start flashing, the stop arm comes out, correct?
Mr. Regan.
That is correct.
Thank you.
All right.
Mr. Chair?
Senator Johnson-Stewart.
Thank you. I just want to emphasize to Senator Jasinski, so the current law is that the arm is extended and the red lights are flashing, so that timing of as the arm goes out is when we see a lot of well, I'm sure the State Patrol is going to talk about that, but that's kind of that moment where it's highest risk. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
All right, Lieutenant, please introduce yourself and then proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Lieutenant Brian Ruth of State Patrol. I serve as the state's Director of Pupil Transportation. When the recent Supreme Court ruling that was mentioned came out, we started to get a lot of questions and inquiries about the safety of the student stops and how we can improve them. So we started working with industry on this, so much so that you may see identical language in a standalone or an agency initiative package as well as we're working with them on this. So we certainly appreciate the effort of Senator Johnson-Stewart and the others for moving this forward in that standalone bill. To Senator Jasinski's question somewhat, this isn't changing the design standard. The stop arm is still going to be required to be on the bus, work properly as part of our inspection process, the design standard process. This is just changing that piece of that enforcement aspect of the stop arm violation. From the law enforcement standpoint, if you're behind the bus or in front of the bus and you're watching, it's going to be very difficult to tell when you're behind it a couple car lengths, if that arm is still in the swinging process or when it reaches that 90-degree point. So it clears up that expectation. As soon as those amber lights stop and the reds come on, that's when we know that traffic needs to be stopped. So we appreciate the effort from industry, and Senator Johnson-Stewart and others is moving this forward.
I have a question. So we have have we talked about cameras yet? We have the camera technology. Is the camera technology already configured such that it would be able to document a violation in this circumstance when the arm is swinging into place and not yet in place. I mean, I know that we've got a long ways to go to get a lot of these school buses outfitted with cameras, but, you know, it's one of the better ideas we've had around here lately, and so we really like it. Mr. Regan?
Yes, Mr. Chair, we certainly appreciate the support of the $15 million in 2022 that came through to outfit every single school bus in the state of Minnesota with stop arm cameras. We have found that to be very effective. Violations and citations have increased over that last number of years, and we're not in a business of desiring or hoping to have citations. We want awareness, we want safety, and so that has been extremely effective. We've had local, in our local jurisdiction here in Senator Jasinski's district, where our law enforcement is phenomenal. We'll come to our bus garage 20 minutes after a stop arm violation comes through, watch the video, and process it. So it provides them the detail to move forth and support, you know, what's needed for a conviction and a citation. So the technology these days is definitely there. We can see in real time how far out the stop arm is, and we can see the cars that come from either direction and snapping a picture of the license plate. So yeah, that technology with this, cleaning up this language will be very effective.
Senator Johnson-Stewart.
Thank you. But can you set the timing so that when the brake is applied, so the amber lights start to, can you change, like, is the camera continuously filming, or does it only film in conjunction with the stop arm?
Mr. Regan.
Yep, thank you, Mr. Chair. The stop arm, the camera is on at all times.
Oh,
so
okay.
there are activations that will show if the stop arm has been activated, if there are blinkers activated, other distances. That's correct.
Okay.
Thank you. See, Senator Carlson has his hand up, but before he does that, I need to establish that he's actually here, which I hadn't done. In accordance with the rules of the Senate, the following members will be participating remotely in today's hearing. Senator Carlson from Eagan, Minnesota. With that, Senator Carlson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I think my question has been answered with the prior comments, and that is that the camera is on at all times. But I wanted to be sure that specific time when the orange, yellow lights are on and the red lights have not yet become on, that that particular time is recorded, and the violation occurs when the red lights begin. So the yellow lights are really a move up to the violation time, which is the red light time. Am I correct in that?
Senator Johnson-Stewart.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The current law is that the red light is what signals, if a car goes around a red light, they are in violation. This would change it to be when the amber lights are showing, and of course, will require some outreach and education of the public, because this is a change.
Senator Johnson-Stewart, if I could correct you.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Mr.
Oh,
Regan.
God, how embarrassing.
So I believe I would agree with Senator Carlson that when the 8 lights or the red lights are on, that is when the violation would then be activated. So the stop arm is starting to come out. It's not fully extended, but the red lights are on. The amber lights are still and will continue to be more of a warning that the red lights will be coming on very shortly.
Mr. Chair, I would like to repair my reputation. I missed the word prepare to stop, so I apologize. That is in fact true.
All right. Thank you. Is everyone clear? Senator Jasinski.
Just one last thing, Mr. Regan. So there's no delay, correct? So the red light comes on at the same time. I mean, I think when the light comes on versus the mechanical moving of a stoplight or stop sign coming out, there must be a little bit of a delay, isn't there, or not? Or how does that work?
Mr. Regan. Mr. Regan, please pause in your response until I call upon you. Mr. Regan.
Apologize for that. Senator Chair and Senator Jasinski. Yes, so the red lights will come on as the stop arm starts to come out. So they start at the same time simultaneously. However, you are correct in the delay of the time that it takes the stop arm to come out fully. That couple seconds is the concern that we have, to where students are waiting at the side of the road. They see the red lights flashing. The bus is fully stopped at that time and the door is open many times. They might start to to come across. We certainly train our drivers, we train our students as well as we can. However, we can't control, like I say, when students and when other drivers are outside of the road, outside of the bus, how they respond in those situations.
Senator Jasinski.
Thank you.
All right. Senator Coleman? Yes. Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Senator, for bringing this bill forward. I'm feeling a mixture of emotions, both gratitude that you're taking care of this and so quickly, and also mortified that there are people so selfish out there that we even have to do this in the first place because they can't just slow down and stop for 10 seconds and let kids cross the road and get home and to school safely. So mortified but grateful, and if there's space on the bill, I would love to be on it. What's more important than protecting our kids right now, so thank you.
Great. Anything further, members? All right. Anything further, John Stewart, you have the final word, and you can make the motion.
No, just that I'm sorry, I misread my notes, so I apologize for that. And I move that this bill be
Recommended to pass and referred to the floor.
recommended to pass and be referred to the floor. Thank you,
All right.
Mr. Chair.
All right. Let me also express gratitude and my strong support for making this change. It's unfortunate that this has to be done, that the courts found for the defendant in this case, but at least we're getting it taken care of now. I just don't think there's anything more important that we do than keeping people safe, especially young people on their way to and from school. Can't imagine a more important thing that we do as a committee and as a legislature other than to take care of our young people. All right, with that, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. Motion carries. Thank you, Johnson Stewart. All right, any announcements, Ms. Senator Farnsworth.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want to add, I'm sorry to circle back to the previous conversation, but I had a researcher look up the MPDS permits for Met Council, and their sulfate emission is 70 parts per million, which is way above the 10 parts per million. It'll cost them billions of dollars to meet that standard if we don't do something. So just wanted to clear that up.
All right, thank you. Before we go to announcements from Ms. Ethier, I want to congratulate Ms. Ethier, Mr. Gillis for 5 years of service with the Minnesota Senate, and Ms. Boyd for 20 years of service with the Minnesota Senate. Mr. Watson's predecessor, Lexi Stengel, also was recognized today for 20 years for you and 15 years for Lexi Stengel, who used to be a part of Team Transpo. So congratulations to all of you, and thank you for your incredible work for us. It's amazing. So deep gratitude and congratulations. Ms. Ethier.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. On Wednesday, we'll be having a hearing with two MnDOT bills. They are a collection of policy and efficiency proposals, and we'll be hearing from agency staff on that.
Oh, and I have some agency bills here if anyone is dying to sign on or even be chief author of MnDOT agency bill and DPS agency bills. All right. With that, we are adjourned. Thank you.